I've heard you and the Judiciary Committee recently in the summer testify that the border is secure. Secretary Mayorkas, do you continue to maintain that the border is secure?
Yes, and we are working day in and day out to enhance its security.
Okay. Homeland Security Secretary Mayorkas says the border is secure. But the facts on the ground tell a very different story. Just check out these scenes from the last 2 days in Eagle Pass. Looks secure to me. Plus, some families along the southern border are now hiring armed guards to do what they say the federal government isn't doing, protect them. But things are about to get even worse with the end of Title 42. A federal judge just blocked the Biden administration from using the Trump-era policy to expel migrants. Now, some are even warning of a migrant explosion.
Now that Title 42 is going away, we can expect the numbers to exponentially go up because now there is no mechanism to hold anybody accountable whatsoever. We're going to be releasing the vast majority of these people into the United States.
It's about to get a whole lot worse, Emily.
That's right. And I just have to say, you know, these citizens that are paying for additional security and whatnot, it just reminds me of the residents of Minneapolis that had to crowdfund to pay off-duty police officers to patrol their neighborhoods because Mayor Feckless Frey abdicated his duty to protect them. It reminds me of the anecdote you shared with us where Congresswoman Flores told you about one of her constituents who had to take out a school loan to pay for her children's school supplies there in Texas. And so in Biden's America, you know, you pay exorbitant taxes anyway to be less safe, to be less secure, to be less provided for a system that fails you. And so you pay out of pocket to try to achieve those things with a dollar that is valued at far less than it was. That's Biden's America, this right here.
No doubt about it. And Doug, you know, with Title 42, Bill Malugin saying he's already hearing from multiple Border Patrol sources that they will be expecting a significant surge of migrants at the border once word gets around about this, on top of the numbers that are already at all-time highs. Title 42, of course, the public health scenario where you can expel migrants.
At this point in time, I'm not sure why the Border Patrol, except for the great patriotism they have, is even on the job.
Yeah.
Secretary Mayorkas owes the nation apology. This is a dereliction of duty. You know, there's been a lot of talk about impeachment in Washington, D.C. Start right there. Because if you sit there to a congressional committee on multiple occasions and say, oh, the border is secure, I mean, I don't even know how you do that. I mean, that kind of a lie is just amazing when it comes to this. When you think about what's happening here, the cartels are now in control under the Biden administration. The cartels make they don't even have to deliver across the border anymore. They just turn them loose at the border. The American government, because they're not being able to enforce through the Biden administration, is actually fulfilling the other end of the contract. Because then they take them in and then put them out through the country. This one, you know, you want to get. This one is one that people don't understand. Democrats and Republicans both can agree on one thing. Mayorkas is a failure at his job. And number two, the border is open. I don't care what they say.
Yeah, but just the audacity of saying the border's secure. I mean, no one believes that.
I was so offended when I heard him say that because he's gaslighting the American people. By the way, we have the video to show you that the border is far from secure. But look at what Texas Governor Greg Abbott is now doing. This is how almost desperate things have gotten. And I'm from Texas and from Arizona. Two border states, to be clear. I grew up in this. This has been going on for decades. And I sometimes I just throw my hands up and go, nothing's going to change. But it's actually gotten worse under the Biden administration. Here's what Governor Abbott's going to do. He wants to deploy gunboats to secure the border, designate Mexican drug cartels as foreign terrorist organizations. I think that's brilliant. And then talk to other states about coming together to maybe pull resources. Doug, to your point about those border agents down, the ones in Arizona, the ones that I've talked to, they're so burned out. They're exhausted. No one has their back. I'm shocked they're even going to work anymore. They've had it.
How do you do your job when law and order is not even supported? You're supposed to be enforcing something where law and order is not even respected. So I feel for those families down there. They're being terrorized. They're being put on guard. Yes, I'd be pooling my resources too with the rest of the neighborhood and say, what are we going to do about this? Because no one else is doing anything.
What is worse is the last few years, these border agents, and they're being, and Tom Holmes talks about this a lot, but they're being pulled away from other ideas. This idea of getaway place, which we hear all the time. That's where your drugs come in. That's where, because they're pulling them to one central location. But to those families and those border agents and those working, they've been in dealing with this with folks coming across. We didn't, back during even the pandemic, we didn't check. They wouldn't do, check to see if they had COVID. And it was not just COVID. The other things that were coming in over the border, these border patrol agents were being affected physically by that, and the things coming out. And just the mental strain of seeing these kids dying. Seeing the truckloads where you're seeing this, the mental strain there for our border patrol agents, this is just, it's heartbreaking. And you're exactly right, Carter.
No, imagine
Emily,
a Texas rancher, this 6'5" Texas rancher who was on Mornings with Maria Bartiromo when she was down there. I think the 5th time she went down there, is crying. It's big, strong Texas man.
It's heartbreaking.
In tears.
Emily, and meanwhile you have a mother who wasn't able to get prenatal care. They said, I've received calls from people saying, hey, I had to take my wife to San Diego to deliver a baby because of the rush of migrants in these communities. We know these numbers have gone up. And Biden now saying, Title 42, I need till December. Give me some time before this actually goes into place. He wanted to end this, and now he's like, give me time.
That's right. And I think the unfortunate aspect about the legal path that Title 42 took is that the reason that it was now struck down was because it was arbitrary and capricious in terms of the Administrative Procedures Act, because the CDC in part didn't use it as the least restrictive method, right? And they didn't explain that departure from settled law. In plain English, what it means is that the judge ruled that the CDC didn't implement a plan that was the least restrictive measure, that was the most supportive of humans, because quarantine is a really severe move. The problem is, conceptually, the arguments on behalf of Texas and these states were saying this is the only method we have at restraining this surge across the border that is hurting us in a multitude of levels, including physically and emotionally and economically and politically and in so many different ways. So I understand why the judge ruled the way he did, but the bottom line is that it is Americans and also the migrants that are being adversely and really fatally affected here. We report all the time on migrants whose lives are lost, Border Patrol officers whose lives are lost. And that is the toll that this procedural decision has taken.
No, well said, Emily, as always.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.